All right, another video, Norwich 93 CMP for the Carbine Club's data sheet. We're going to do the manufacturer and basically the barrel and a couple components with the barrel. First thing I tell people, don't ever write down the manufacturer yet. Sometimes there are some anomalies that could screw you up, and you can actually name it the wrong thing as far as manufacturers go based upon what the receiver says and what's all around it. So a good case in point is this. If you looked at the manufacturer and you looked underneath, let's see if I can get it right, and you look real close, that says Underwood with an Underwood serial number, and this is the bevel I talked about in earlier videos, a T code. Intertype made this for Underwood. Well, at the end of the contract for Underwood, May 1st, they sold a bunch of receivers to Winchester. And on the bevel, you can see faint is a W and an A. So it's called a WTA. It was finished by Winchester. There's all Winchester parts on it. It's got a Winchester original, this is an original gun, and a Winchester barrel on it. So just because you're looking underneath here doesn't mean it's always the manufacturer. So in this case, the name of the receiver up in here would be Underwood, but the manufacturer up top would be Winchester. Same goes along the lines of grabbing a rifle. Let's see if I can, here's a good case in point right here. When we look really close, it says Rocla on it. Very faint, but it's there right here. Rocla. And a lot of times the rear sight is covered, and what happens is people think it's a Rocla gun. They don't care. But this one happens to be a quality hardware. There was a few manufacturers of barrels that overproduced barrels, and the government said, you make extra barrels, we'll pay you for the barrels, you send them to these other manufacturers. And that's what they did. Underwood did that, Rocla, Inland, not so much IBM, but then there was Marlin and Buffalo Arms, sent these barrels to the other companies. So don't just read the barrel and think that's the gun that you have. Look underneath the rear sights. This one here, this one was a later produced gun, so you can make out the manufacturer, but sometimes they covered them. Just be careful, okay? So the manufacturer, save till later. The name on the receiver, write that in there. Now the serial numbers, most of them are 7 digits. There's 7 spaces there. I personally start from the right hand side and work this way. And then what I'll do is I'll fuzz out this last box if it's a 6 digit, so that everybody knows this, because somebody's typing this in as data input. If you start over here, we're wondering if you're missing a serial number. If it's a 700,000 Inland, or is it a 7 million Winchester? Is somebody keystroking it in when all the other things look like a Winchester? So just be very careful. If you're not going to report it and you're 7 million and you want to do an X and an X, well, put an X and X in there. That's what that means. But shade it out if you don't use one of the blocks, okay? Code or marking below the serial number, I just explained that to you. It's super important to put that in there. One thing I don't have on hand, I don't believe, no I don't, is an Underwood. So just so you know, this rear bevel portion here, an Underwood produced carbine, and that's what this one lacks. They made a flaming bomb and they put it on here. It's usually, that T would be almost circled with the bomb portion, and then the flames would be up pointed towards the front of the rifle. That's what Underwood produced. So that's also on the bevel. You should also make a little annotation down in this area right here. So the barrel name, obviously spell it out. If it's 2 lines, 3 lines, write it out. The date, be very careful. So this quality hardware is extremely hard to see, but it's there, and I'm going to show you. So we already talked about, this says Rocla right there. There's the R, Rocla. Well, below it is an early flaming bomb. You should also annotate that. Early Saginaw's had that, and another manufacturer. Sorry about that. Yeah, okay. Technical difficulties, folks. Now, if you look just below it, this is high up. The rest of the Roclas is probably down right about here. But there's a date. And if you look really close, it's 1/1-42. So this is extremely early Rocla barrel. Put those marks and the dates in that barrel mark in here. Okay. Now we'll go right over here to the marks section. So they're looking for the P's and the height of the P. If there's 2 P's, that was kind of indicative of, I've seen it, of inland. If there's a punch mark, that's indicative basically of, and the punch mark is on the barrel midpoint. They are in other locations, but this is talking about what you can view for postal meter. Flaming bombs, I would put an asterisk, put information on the back. What's the size of the flaming bomb? What does it look like? I showed you what that little one just had, a little mini cone in the top. This is the Winchester proofing, commercial proofing mark. They were allowed to use that in lieu of the P's. That's not always present on Winchesters, just so you know. The W stands for Winchester, that's right. Sometimes, most of the time, you see these 2 marks present in the same gun. I've seen just the proof mark, I've seen just the W, I've seen them both. They do exist, and there is also an early variant also. Then we're going to talk about these cutaway areas for the front sight key. We're going to talk about the chamber skirtings and what a long skirt and short skirt. This is a long skirt, short skirt. We're going to talk about a little bit about key retention and the staking of the key. I don't see too much of this. Usually rebuilds do that. Gas cylinder markings in the gas cylinder. Piston markings, yes, some of them were marked. We're going to talk about the barrel color, just like any other time for the colors for any other parts and other markings. I'm also going to talk to you about the castle nut to retain the gas piston in too. All right, so we talked about the barrel markings. We're going to talk about the proof marks. This one happens to be serifed on this Rocla. It looks like it's double struck right here. The proof mark, you can see this is the Type 3 shadow barrel band. It's below the barrel band of a bayonet lug. The proof marks for the barrels were always made outside of the bayonet lug. It was always visible. So this one, theoretically, if it was a late gun produced with a bayonet lug, the proof mark would be above someplace, visible without taking it apart. This one happens to be below. That's how you know it had an earlier band on it. There are different types of P's. There's large P's. There's little tiny P's. Put it down. If you want to annotate what the distance is from the top, that's fine. If you want to do that, just write it on the back. Winchester. Let's see. So here's an example of the Winchester marks. There's the W, kind of midpoint. Here's the commercial oval P, W. Okay. I don't have a punch mark to show you. The double P's, and I don't have one to show you right now, but the normal P would be in here that we're talking about. The other P is located right near the gas cylinder. It's like right in this area right here. So I don't know if it was a subcontractor code that they proofed it, and then they proofed it when the gun was fired. More than likely is what happened. But there's 2 P's sometimes on inlands. So just be cognizant of that fact. Front sight keyways. We have oval and then an eye cut, just like our stocks. Okay, so the one on the left is the oval cut, eye cut. I've seen this on IBMs. Everybody else. Chamber skirts. Here's a little cut-off knobber of a barrel. And what we're talking about is this added piece of metal from here to here. This is an earlier feature. They realized this was stopping barrels going into the receivers when they were screwing in, and they eliminated that because that's the first area it's going to touch the receiver ring here in the back. So they took them off and they realized, yeah, the gun functions perfectly fine without it. So they went with what is called a short skirt. Let's see if I can get this one. I think the IBM's got it. I think this one has it. Yes. So if you look in there, let's see if I can zoom in. It's missing it. See how it's only on the top section? About 12 o'clock to like maybe 8 o'clock. That's a short skirt. Okay. Key type retention. I've seen everything. Let's see. Mostly it's a chisel mark. It results into something that looks like this. Yes. That's to keep the key. It's not that really big a deal. It doesn't go anywhere. Maybe just keeps it physically in there when they're putting the front sight on. Of all the stuff that's tight on this gun, the front sight's got to be the tightest. Even the gas cylinder, the lock that goes in for the piston, is not as strong as I've seen a lot of front sights. And the other one is an eye cut, and I do have one to show you here someplace. Here it is, way in the back on the IBM. So this is a later IBM. Come on, bastard. See that? That's a cut in there. All right. So just put that down. Whether there's none, there's a chisel, or there's a notch. Now we're going to talk about the rear. They're talking about the rear of the sights. Like I said, I've never seen any other than rebuilt stuff. Very rare that you see that. But if you do have it, none or annotate it. Markings in the gas cylinder, big thing to know. Where's the Winchester? So on Winchester, we're talking about the gas cylinder. Sometimes markings can be on this flat over here or to the front. Winchester's usually has some type of flaming bomb on one side or the other. Always check the front of it. This early Rocla barrel has one to the front, and it's an R. Inland had a lot of subcontractors right there. Hold on, I'll get this for you. You gotta focus there, camera. There we go. So this has the R to the front. I've seen like I-I, BI for some inland stuff on the front. I've seen the R here. This is called a swagged gas cylinder. It's a separate piece slid on, and then it's curled with the machine pressed into a cutout, a little trench in here. This is called an integral. This is one piece of steel. This is still all one piece of steel. Okay. Markings. Gas. Okay, so the piston markings. The only piston markings I've ever seen were on the fronts of some of the inlands. So this one's W.I. These things were unchanged. The only other marking I can say is I've seen is a hardness mark. That might be a replacement, I'm not sure, but that's the only other mark I've seen. I've never seen anything anywhere else. You do not have to remove these to see these marks. This is what is exposed. Don't try to remove the nut just to remove the nut to look for markings. It should be visible. If you happen to have to remove your nut for whatever reason, there are two different variations. Well, we have monkey's uncle here. Well, what they're talking about an early versus a late, this shelf here is deeper in than another shelf. That's what we're talking about, type 1s and type 2s. These are staked in this little notch from the barrel. And if you take this off, you can mess this all up. Once you mess this up in the threads, you can throw away your barrel. So just leave it alone. Don't play with it. unless it's been out already or there's something broke with it to begin with. But don't go around just messing with that area. Other marks we call hieroglyphs, and I don't have any to demonstrate, but I do need this. It's a bunch of marks that are at the bottom. We call this the bottom flat of the barrel underneath the chamber, and they're all we believe to be inspection marks, and there could be from one end to the other end with a bunch of marks. We call them hieroglyphics. If you want to write them down and make it look pretty and stuff, go ahead, have at it. That's basically all there is. I've also seen some marks up here on this bevel. You can annotate that in the back. I've seen some Italian markings, fat in the rectangle and the star and a date sometimes, but I've also seen some letter codes there on GI stuff. So just be careful, cognizant of that too. All right, got any questions? Put them down in the comments. I'll answer them as best I can. Look at the other videos that accompany this video. I think the last one I have to do is the slide. And take care until then. Thank you.